Hey guys, it's Jessica, and today we are going to talk about 5 really expensive high-end palettes that I am getting rid of. I'm decluttering. I hope it inspires you to go through your... Okay, if you're like me and you have a whole drawer full of eyeshadow palettes, I'm staring at the open one right now and it's still too full. But if you have a drawer of eyeshadow palettes and you know you're only using the same 3 every day, I hope this inspires you to get rid of some, pass them on to sisters or friends or aunts, or donate them to shelters. Whatever you want to do with them, but pass them on. Let someone else love them if you're not loving them yourself. So some of these I'm passing on for just the purpose that I'm just not reaching for it, and others I'm passing on because I just don't think it's very good. So here we go. First one I'm getting rid of, this is gonna shock you guys. And now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, but do you want to get rid of it? I'm like, Jessica, just do it. It's the Natasha Denona Star Palette. This was one I bought with my own money. This is an expensive freaking palette. This palette is right, see, now I don't want to get rid of it. I don't use it. See, I just did this where I just looked at it, I was like, now I don't want to get rid of it. But I'm looking at it, I'm like, but I never used it. I would pull it out and look at it and be like, I guess I'll use this shadow and maybe I'll use this. It's crazy. It looks like a palette I would use, but for whatever reason, I couldn't use this right. Like, I don't know how to explain that, but if you've ever had a palette where like you look at it and you're like, this is right up my alley. Like, I love neutrals and some shimmers and some mattes, maybe a pop of color, maybe. This is totally up my alley. So sometimes, you know, I'll pull it out, I'll look at it and be like, okay, I'll put this shimmer on. And I never loved the shimmers, even when I would use like a glitter glue or I'd wet my brush. And then the mattes I think were fine, but I don't know. There's something about this that every time I pulled it out, I like couldn't get a look together that I really liked. Like, I never really loved my eye look when I would use this. So I thought, you know what? This is a crazy expensive palette. Someone is gonna be pumped to get this. And so I'm just gonna pass it on. And you know, the biggest thing that helps me when I think about getting rid of something expensive and it like hurts my heart is that the money's already been spent. So you holding on to something for 3 years, I haven't had this that long, but you holding on to something for years just because you've already spent the money and it was really expensive, but you're not using it even still, then it doesn't benefit you to keep it. You're not getting your money's worth by holding on to it and still not using it. You've already spent the money, the money's already gone. So keep it, don't keep it. It's not changing the fact that you've already spent the money. So that was one thing that kind of helped me let go when it comes to things like this. Now, of course, my job is also to review makeup. So I look at this a little bit differently. I know that. But even still, I think that's a helpful piece of advice when it comes to letting go of something that you've spent a lot of money on. Money's already spent. Whether you keep it or don't doesn't really matter, so you might as well pass it on. Let someone else use it before it goes bad. Also, and I mentioned this before, but why I feel so bad. I feel like I knock on Natasha Denona. I have tried amazing, like I really like her Safari palette. I'm loving that. Anyway, so I don't mean to knock on the brand, but I just don't understand the price point, and I don't understand this. Like, my only reasoning as to why it might be beneficial this way is maybe if you're a makeup artist. But even that, wouldn't it still get in your way? Like, why wouldn't you just put the words? Anyway, I don't know. And she still makes her palettes like that. So I just think that's interesting. I get the packaging is kind of this more like fabric-y, but I could see how traveling with this, again, especially if you're a makeup artist, that would be beneficial because it's probably protecting it. It's kind of rubberized. So anyway, so it's not to say that her shadows are bad, because they're not. I just don't understand the price point. And for me, for whatever reason, I just couldn't get into that palette. Next one that I don't like, and I was so sad to not like, is the Dior Backstage eye palette. This is the warm neutrals one. This one I bought on a whim. I'd kind of seen it online. They have this, and then I think they have more of a rosy one. And I was like, ooh, this looks right up my alley. This would be a great travel palette. And I'm thinking, oh, it'll be Dior. It's probably really good at shadow quality. I don't think so. It has this eye primer here, which actually I think is okay. It kind of cancels out, like if you have any veining to cover up on your upper eye. It also, of course, holds on to the shadow. I actually think the primer is okay. But the shimmers just weren't really anything to write home about. They weren't super punchy. I don't know. It was kind of odd. Like, they were just like... And then the mattes were fine. They blended fine. But again, for something that's expensive and has the Dior name on it, and there was so much excitement around this launch, I was just kind of blown away that I didn't like this. You know what I mean? And so I kept trying it over and over again thinking, oh, maybe if I use it this way or I use it this way with a wet brush, or I still never really liked this. So I was like, again, I'm gonna pass it on. Someone that's never owned Dior is gonna be pumped about this. I mean, I was pumped about getting it. I mean, I bought it, but anyway, it's just time. You ever get your nails done or paint your nails and you're hoping it looks one way and it doesn't end up looking that way? That's how I felt about these. Like I was hoping it'd be more like a white, kind of like silvery sparkle, and it just ended more like a gray silvery sparkle. I still like it, but I was like, dang, that's not what I wanted. I think if it's a dipped powder nail, I think if they had maybe like done like a dipped like white before they dipped it in the glitter, I don't know that they can do that. It maybe would have looked better anyway. The next palette, again, that might be a shocker, is I'm gonna get rid of the Anastasia Modern Renaissance palette. I love this palette. So I'm not getting rid of this because it's bad. I'm really only getting rid of it because I already own the Soft Glam and the Sultry palette, and those are like exactly what I want. And so for this, I was like, you know, it's got some shimmers I like. I really like this golden ochre shade, but I didn't feel like this had anything I was missing in the other two. And it also had these pinks and like oranges that I really don't wear anyway. So I was like, you know, there's no real reason to keep this. I already have 2 other Anastasia palettes I adore that I was never reaching for this. So I thought, again, I'll pass it on to someone that's gonna be really excited to own this, because I know I'm just not ever pulling it because I'm always pulling for the other one. So I thought this was beautiful, and if you're someone that you love pinks and oranges, then get this one because you'll love it. But if you're more like me and you just kind of like, I mean, I'm literally doing an eyeshadow palette video and I'm wearing a singular eyeshadow just blended onto my eye. That's it. I didn't even like, I was running errands today, so it was kind of one of those days that I just didn't have the time to do a full eye look. But it's just funny that I'm doing an eyeshadow palette and I'm wearing one eyeshadow. Not even like a couple, just one. It's one of the shadows in one of my favorites, the Violet Voss Holy Grail palette. I think it's sold at either Sephora or Ulta. I will link it below. That is one of my like top 3 favorite palettes. So yeah, that is why I'm passing this sucker on. This next one, Too Faced sent a lot of these palettes to a lot of influencers when they redid their original palettes. Is anyone like me and you feel a little bit sad when they redo something that you loved? And I don't even necessarily think that the shadows themselves are really that different, if at all. But it's just like, oh, but they changed the packaging. And like, I have such a nostalgic feeling towards the Too Faced Natural Eyes palette. But this is the Natural Matte. And I was actually really excited. Did they even have the Natural Matte back then? I think they did. But they redid the packaging, and actually the packaging is gorgeous. It's really, really well made. It feels high-end. It magnetizes clothes. I applaud Too Faced on this packaging because I think it's gorgeous. But again, there's that like part of me that's like, but why did you change it? But I get it. So it's beautiful. This has kind of a sweet smell. And again, I'm looking at it like maybe I don't declutter it because it's got the perfect range of neutrals, but I never reached for it. Never, ever, ever did I ever reach for this. There's no reason. Again, I think these are fine. I think these blend fine. But it was just one of those things that I have so many matte palettes, and this is one that I didn't really feel super inspired by. I don't know. Do you guys have palettes like that where you're like, there's nothing wrong with this, but I'm just not inspired by it? Like, again, kind of like that Star palette where I feel like I open it and I look at it and it's all colors I like, but I'm like, but what do I do with them today? Like, it's like there's like a mental roadblock. Maybe I am the only one and I'm super weird and you guys are like playing your judgery-do right now. The next one is again from Too Faced, and it's the White Peach palette. This one smells like peaches, just delicious peaches. But I didn't know what to do with this palette. I mean, look at it. It's a whole lot of light colors, which listen, I can appreciate a light eyeshadow. But then there's this way too sparkly, like bluish purple that gets sparkle everywhere. Then there's this really pretty kind of matte charcoal color. And that's about it. Everything else is light. I didn't know what to do with this. I really didn't. So I would like sometimes go in with peach cream and peach suede and sometimes this peach sorbet. I really liked those. And then sometimes I'd pull sweet fig. I liked that color too, but I was like, that's about it. I feel like if I could just pull those 4 out, I would use, oh, I liked fuzzy and on the, see, there were shades I liked, but again, I would pull this out. I'd maybe use it once, but I wouldn't really like enjoy using it. Nothing really wrong with it, but just not inspiring to me. I feel like I should retitle this video like palettes that don't inspire me, but then also one that I just don't need and then another that I didn't like. It's always hard to title videos like this because, you know, I'm getting rid of these. So I guess that's just what I'm gonna have to call it. But it's such different reasonings for some of them. If you would be interested in seeing a video of like my top 5 palettes right now, like ones that I'm just genuinely like, I get so excited to use them. I'm sure some of you guys could probably just straight up guess what some of my top 5 palettes. In fact, I challenge you, what do you think my top 5 palettes are? Some of you guys are gonna be like dead on the money and I'll be like, dang! I was talking recently in a Vlogmas video about my palettes drawer and I was showing you like what's in my palette drawer, like what I'm, you know, thinking about getting rid of. Not these, those were already pulled out. But if you wanna see like my eyeshadow palette, I will link that particular Vlogmas video down below because I do show you my entire drawer and every eyeshadow palette I own. So if you're just curious about seeing that, I love seeing videos like that, I will link that. But I hope you enjoyed. I hope that you will subscribe before you leave. If you like seeing declutter videos, I do them constantly on my channel. And I hope you'll also come say hi on my social media, which is jambeauty89 everywhere. And other than that, I will see you guys in my next one. Bye.